Welcome to the Floor Academy podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Hadeen, owner of Illustrious Hardwoods in Mesa, Arizona. Joining me this week is Kevin Vogel, the newly appointed Chief Operating Officer at Reach Social. Although I don't know if he actually deserves that title. I hear he's in pretty good with the boss lady, and he might have gotten the title just because he's the husband or something. So, that's not the reason for the show. We're gonna dig into something else. So Kevin and I have known each other for over a year, a couple years at this point. And his wife Shannon introduced us, and she's amazing doing her thing over at Reach Social. But we were having a question, and Kevin was kind of struggling. A year back, 2 years back, and things were a little rough. And so the question we're asking today is, well, he called it a sabbatical. Was it really a midlife crisis, or was it something else altogether? And I want to dig into this because I've had conversations with contractors where they want to tell me the American dream doesn't exist. And I firmly disagree, because the flooring industry has changed my life in the last 8 years, but really it made a huge difference in the last 5 years of where I'm at, what I'm able to do, and how I'm able to take care of my family. And so I firmly believe that the American dream exists. Although that dream is generally chasing some sort of celebrity and income level and lots of shiny objects so that you can better take care of your family. But in order to get all of those things, you're constantly chasing some new goal and always putting something else in front of it. And so you're never actually truly satisfied. And Kevin and I have both had some life experiences here shortly where we've really had to step back and question what it is that's important to us and what these goals actually mean. And do you need the status symbol? Do you need the car? Do you need the house? Do you need the vacation? Or is being able to spend time with your wife on the porch at the end of a day, or, taking your kids on a family vacation to Wisconsin, the thing that's going to make it happen for you? So we're going to dig into this kind of what happens, what gets proposed to you growing up within the American culture, and how we need to look at this as business people and really assess how to figure out what it is we want to do. Before I have Kevin introduce himself, we jump into all of that. Floor Academy podcast is here for you every week, dropping some kind of business knowledge to help you better assess where you're at and how to move forward so that you can run a profitable, manageable, freeing up your time so you can have actual free time. That's why most of us become business owners, and then we end up with none. And so every week we're talking with business owners for you to be able to take golden nuggets out of these conversations, implement into your business one thing at a time so it's not overwhelming, and make a difference. One of the ways you can do that beyond listening to the show is you can hop into one of our mastermind groups. Our business therapy mastermind groups are absolutely amazing. We put 5 business owners into a group. We meet every other week. There's accountability to not only reach your goals, but you can express your frustrations with where your life is at and get feedback on what you're trying to accomplish in your business in real time from other business owners that are more than likely facing the same issues as you. We want to thank our sponsors. We've got Johns Manville, we've got Surfaces, IQ Power Tools, and hopping on just recently here is Cronos Software. So thank you to them. They help make the things happen around here. If you want to help support the show because it's helping you, head on over to patreon.com/Floor Academy. Even $5 a month goes a long way in helping me keep the messages coming to you so that you can be more successful. That all being said, Cronos Software has a quick message. So, are you looking for an easy and affordable way to manage your business? Cronos Flooring Software is your solution. Streamline your workflow from managing leads, inventory, and scheduling installations. It includes every feature needed to support your business at an affordable price. It's extremely user-friendly and easy to navigate. Full integration with QuickBooks makes tracking your profitability as easy as clicking a button. Visit chronosoft.com to schedule a demo today. That's KRONUS soft.com. They've got a very cool platform. It's very reasonable to be able to get started. If you don't have a CRM in your business, I highly suggest checking them out. I was very impressed with what they have going on. And the best part, it is built by a flooring retailer who looked at all the other CRM and measuring options and stuff like that on the market. And he said, I don't like any of them. I'm going to go find a software guy. And he's made his own. So he's solving it from within. It's not a company that said, let us get into this industry. It's our industry solving the industry's problems. So go give them a shout over at chronosoft.com and see if they can't help you become a little more organized and streamlined. Whew, too much. All right, that's enough from me. Kevin, welcome to the show. Who are you? What do you do? Why do you do it?
Oh my goodness, Kyle. Thank you for having me. Yeah, that's quite an intro. But you got to check all those boxes. I certainly understand. As you have shared with the group, I am Kevin Vogel, and I am recently joined Reach Social as the COO. We can certainly debate the validity of the title, but
well-deserved title.
But it is true that my wife does own the business, founded originally in January of 2021. But yeah, 30 plus years in the floor covering and construction industry. Started out in the Bay Area of California where I grew up, and quickly had an opportunity to move out east and kind of start my own life and my own career away from all of my family, and took that leap of faith. And never looked back. And I've been very fortunate to work for some organizations that were founded by some really, really creative thinkers that kind of played a mentor role in my development throughout my career. Even was part of a transaction selling a business to Home Depot, which was one of the greatest experiences of my business life. What you learn in those times is something you take on and use down the line. But over the years, had a variety of positions. I've been on all sides of the flooring industry. Started actually in the warehouse in Livermore, California, back in, God, it had to be 92. And went on to become an apprentice installer, long enough to realize there was a great living to be made in the flooring industry, but on my knees was not how I wanted to make it. Got into project management, ultimately got into working for manufacturers, but really found my niche for the majority of my career, building and managing residential flooring contract businesses, working direct with home builders and commercial contractors. So yeah, that's the 30 seconds or less. That was probably 90 seconds. So
all good. But so within this, you built a very good life for yourself. And there's been, homes and vacations and family and kids, there's been all of that in there. But yes, with where we're going with this and the conversation is, you felt very empty recently. It didn't matter how much you had. You ended up just not morally, but I don't know, in life you felt bankrupt almost, even though you had everything that many people looking from the outside in, right? This is the American trap as we are envious of what our neighbors have and you don't see what's actually going on the inside. But outward appearances, you had it all, man. You had a good 6-figure income. You had the big house. You had the vacations. You got the beautiful wife. What could go wrong for Kevin?
Yeah. It's from the outside looking in, all of those things are incredibly apparent, right? And I have people in my life that I look at today that I say the same thing. I'm like, oh my God, you've got this great job and you've got this amazing family and but then you get into a dialogue with them on a level very similar to the way that you and I have connected most recently, where the barriers come down and you start to realize they're just as effed up inside as I was, right? At the end of the day, we're all in the same boat. And, I made a note as I was listening to your intro and you used a term, the American dream. right? We're all chasing the American dream. And the note that I made was a reminder to come back to everybody doesn't have to have the same American dream.
Yes.
We all have been brought up. I know, certainly speaking from myself, I grew up in a family with a super hardworking father that grew up in a family with a super hardworking father, my grandfather. And, so that you follow in those footsteps. I swore my whole life as a teenager as I unpacked my father's samples that were delivered every day from the variety of carpet mills he worked for. Like, I did all of that work for him and always swore as a result of it, I'd never end up in the flooring industry. 30 years later, how'd that work out for me? But to your point, the industry has been amazing to me over 30 years. I have earned a lot of money in that time. I have had an amazing number of life-changing experiences, back in the day when manufacturers were spending money entertaining clients all over the place. I've played great golf courses. I've been on these amazing trips and all these corporate junkets. But at the end of the day, those are short-term experiences that, yes, create long-term memories, but you're happy while you're having them. You're happy maybe for a week or two afterwards, and then they become an afterthought. Then they become a story you tell 10 years later about this great experience that you had, but it doesn't create or add to the fuel that makes you drive on a daily basis. And so I'm kind of coming all the way back around to what we're really here to talk about. And it was the trigger for me when we were living in California, Shannon and I, living across the street from my father, who I'd lived across the country from for 25 years. So having an opportunity to nurture that relationship again, and that time was just priceless. But I had to have a job that paid a certain level to be able to afford to live where I was. And all of a sudden you wake up one day and you're like, I'm on the road 3 weeks out of every month, 3 to 4 nights every week. When I come home, all I want to do is be quiet, and I want to live in this house that I'm working so hard to be able to afford. And then you just kind of wake up one day and you're like, what am I doing this for? Like, what is the end game? And then COVID hit, and COVID was really good in that I think it created the opportunity for all of us to press pause, right? Like, oh my God, people are dying around me. Things are crazy. Like, I don't know what to believe, what to do, but I'm going to get into my little bubble here. And as a result of it, you start to get super introspective. And,
Yes.
It was middle October-ish of 2020. And I looked at my wife one day and was like, I just, what are we doing? What am I doing? Like, this can't be my existence for the rest of my life. I've never made more money than I am right now, and I've never been more miserable than I am right now. Like, where is the finish line? What is the goal? What are my priorities? And so that triggered us into, okay, let's sell the house. Let's pocket the money. Let's go back to Colorado, where my daughter was moving back to from graduation, from getting her bachelor's degree. And let's start our new life. And I'm going to use this sabbatical as an opportunity. I'm going to take a year off, and I'm going to figure out what I want to be when I grow up. And I'm going to create this business model, and I'm going to do all of this. And then I got there, and I'm in the middle of it. And while some people would say, oh my God, what an amazing experience, for somebody that puts so much self-worth on earnings and achievements and titles, to wake up one day in the middle of a sabbatical and realize you have got none of that, and you don't have a plan yet, all of a sudden triggers this reactionary, oh my God, I'm behind. I've got to come up with the idea. But you know what was really eye-opening to me through that whole experience, Kyle, is I realized that I'm not an entrepreneur in the truest sense of an entrepreneur. I'm not the guy that can take this idea and build the infrastructure from the ground up and know what to put in place. What I've been fortunate to have for 30 years is an opportunity to walk into an existing business that maybe not flatlined, but had become stagnant. and wanted to achieve and grow. And I was able to take the guts, if you will, and start moving levers
Okay.
and paint and create a strategy to go implement and execute. And when I put myself in a position to come up with this great idea that I was going to spend the rest of my life chasing, I panicked and I realized that that's not who I was. So, as we all do, instinctively, it was like, oh my God, I got to go get another job. So here I went, got a job as a national sales manager for this manufacturer, still in construction, but not in flooring. Maybe that's going to change everything because it's not flooring. Oh my God, it'll be amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Guess what? Widgets are widgets are widgets. It's the same shit. It's just, at the end of the day, it is what it is. So, in all of this, in the last year and a half, I guess, I was on social media and I've shared with you, but I'm going to repeat. There was a trigger for me as I was back in the workforce, but realizing I still was miserable. I didn't get out of my sabbatical what I intended to. Didn't put us in the best financial position coming out of it because it was a lot of R&D, if you will, but not a lot of substance coming out of it.
Yes.
And what's that?
I said yes. Oh, I can
Yes.
relate. I understand.
So I came across a TikTok of all things, and I didn't even know who the guy was at the time. I've since realized his name is Jesse Eitzler, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing his last name correctly or not. Co-founder of Marquis Jet, co-founder of Zico Coconut Water, married to the founder of Spanx, like serial entrepreneur. And it was an interview, and he was like, look, I'm 50 years old. He goes through this whole thing about the average lifespan in America today, 78 years old, and I'm 50. And he goes through and he's like, I have 27 summers left in my life. And here's the list of things that I've done in my life, but those are all behind me. And here's the list of things that I want to accomplish in the next 27 summers. And this is the finite amount of time I have to accomplish it. He said, so I've got to be uber efficient about what I do, who I do it with, and when I do it, because I need to be incredibly purposeful about achieving as much of those experiences as I want. And I don't know, like, if that was just the cherry on the sundae or it was the 2x4 upside my head a la Tommy Boy, but it rattled something in me that said, I've been looking at this all wrong. It's who do I want to be around? Who do I want to spend my time with? What do I want to do? And ultimately what it all came back to for me is my passion, my focus today is happiness. And so what does happiness look like? Happiness doesn't look anything like a W-2. It doesn't look like anything like a business card with a fluffy title on it. It looks like the grin on my face. It looks like the lack of stress lines in my forehead and my eyes, because when I get up in the morning, what I choose to do that day, I'm choosing to do it for me and for my wife and my family and our business. And some days we work from, the morning to the afternoon, and then we might go screw off for 3 or 4 hours. But then we're both on our laptops at 8 o'clock at night, working till 10 or 11. But that's what happiness looks like to us. Because ultimately where I got in this whole process, 2.5 years in, is that happiness equals freedom in my world, or the reverse, freedom equals happiness.
Yeah.
And so, that has been everything for me in the last year and a half in particular. But really, I would say it's probably hit home the hardest in the last 6 months.
Well, it sounds like, you were, again, if we're going to go and talk about, this American dream idea, and you made a great point in that COVID kind of gave us a reset button, because it stopped the machine that is American culture in its tracks. Essentially, it stopped America from functioning as it had for, I don't know, let's say that like corporate business really started taking off in the 50s, let's say, okay? And that just continued to push and push and push and really build out what the culture in this country is. COVID steps in, says, nope, you can't operate that way anymore. And everyone was standing there thinking, what do I do now? So it was a great opportunity. It coincided very well with what you had going on. But now you sat there and you were like, well, what does this all look like? And I don't know that enough of us take the time to do that. And that's where I've been at for the last 18, 24 months, as I've not been installing floors as much, still have that business, still install floors. I have an install here, starting right after Thanksgiving, although this comes out, what was this? This comes out at the beginning of December. But anyways, that's how editing and recording works and whatnot, folks. But I do, like, there's an install coming up but the podcast has been a focus, but so is like trying to figure out, essentially I was looking at me and it's just like, I'm not happy. I was in the same boat you are. And that's really what we've connected over recently, is just being like, what is it? And before we got on, I was talking with a buddy of mine, and the thought came to me as he was telling me a story. I was like, well, what's the story we're telling ourselves? And I think that's exactly where most of us are at, is you can wake up and you can start assessing things and you start telling yourself the story of, I have the big title, I have the money, I have to go do this install, and I have to put in a 12-hour day because we need the paycheck at the end of the week so I can pay rent. Like, whatever it is, you're telling yourself the story that makes you feel good about yourself, and you're justifying the reasons for it, as opposed to looking at what are all of the outside factors and the outside stories, and how do I play into this to make all of us move the direction you want. And I think when you're talking about, my happiness equals freedom, you've since stopped looking at the story of what makes Kevin number one on the podium and said, what makes us, whether it's the business as a whole, your family as a whole, your friends as a whole, whatever that is. And you're saying what puts us on the podium at number one, equaling happiness. And that's a huge just mind shift change from where our culture has been going. And I don't know if this is the normal midlife crisis thing that happens. It happened, you like you said, you're 50. I turned 41 and I've been kind of dealing with it since 40. And I'm just like, is this the standard thing that most people are going through? Or is this, I don't know if we're normal and most people aren't willing to talk about it, or if this is like we're the odd ones out, but we're going to get what we ultimately want because we're willing to have this like existential crisis and work through it. It's very interesting, right? And how it's a shock. And one day you're just like, I have to stop and figure this out. Like, this is not working. What I thought was important isn't important. And you're here halfway through your life and you're throwing everything you knew out the window. None of it matters anymore. And you're like, okay, how do I even start?
Well, yes, to all of what you just said, 100%. I wrote down a couple of things as you were saying them. Mm-hmm. One point to really hone in on or focus on, the use of the term I need to or I have to. If you're using those two terms on a daily basis, then you're not in that right headspace as far as I'm concerned. What got me where I am today is changing or interchanging those words to I want to. Mm-hmm. I want to go do those things today because I want the freedom that completing those things creates for me. I'm not doing them because I have to anymore, because I don't have a boss standing over my shoulder that says, where are those reports? I am the guy responsible for getting those reports done. So if I want to do them today, I'm going to do them. Now, I know there's probably some people that are going to be like, yeah, it's not that simple. You still got due dates and all of that. Yeah, we're talking more 30,000 feet. We're not mm-hmm. talking about the nuts and bolts that are the support system of the business, right? But one of the things that I think I didn't touch on initially, um, that I think is very relevant and where you just left off is I think that in order to find where your passion is or find where your freedom lies, where your
Hmm.
happiness lies, is you've got to be able to be real honest with yourself about who you are, about what do you really like about yourself, and what do you really not like about
Hmm.
yourself.
Hmm.
And what are you going to do about the things that you don't really like about yourself? I mean, your recent commitment to exercise and dieting and, getting that portion of your life on a track that you feel really good about, that was a conscious decision that you allowed yourself to kind of let the walls down and say, I'm not happy with this version of myself, so I'm going to go do something about it.
Yeah.
And I think that ultimately that's where I've gotten to, I'm 6'4", 320 pounds. I'm a big ominous figure that a lot of people look at and go, oh my God, he's, must be strong or, whatever. The reality of it is between my ears, I'm as weak as anybody could possibly be. And where the real trigger for me was allowing myself to be introspective, allowing myself to share with friends like yourself. Hey,
Hmm.
look, I'm in therapy. I've invested the time. I broke down those walls because I wanted to understand what the formula was to live a better life than I had. And I have no regrets over the 52 years that are in my rear view mirror. Like I've had some amazing experiences. I have an amazing 24-year-old daughter that I'm proud to say is going to finish her master's degree on December 15th and is in
Nice.
behavioral psychology and has a passion to work with children with autism for the rest of her life. Like I am so proud of that and her. So what am I doing to make my impact? What am I doing to be different?
Hmm.
And it literally has been this willingness to openly talk to other guys in particular, right? Because guy to guy is where we are falsely our most protective of our innermost feelings, right?
Hmm.
Like typically, hey, you and I know each other, but there we were 2 months ago having this conversation and this dialogue that was super raw and honest and truthful. And like I hung up and I was like, okay, that was badass. Like I feel like
Yes.
that was a conversation that moved the needle for both of us.
Hmm.
So there's got to be a willingness there to take things in differently than you have before. And I think that that was probably the biggest hurdle for me getting into where I am now.
Well, coming from, okay, so we work in this flooring industry, and you did have time as an installer, and that's a majority of the audience here, right? And that's
Sure.
historically male dominated market, very very macho. Okay, so we all gotta, we can have our, dick measuring contests and who's better at what and all this fun stuff. But I think that's the point, is that you and I were able to sit there, have a conversation, put the egos aside and be like, hey, look, man, I'm a hot mess. Oh, yeah? Well, hey, me too. Let's talk about it. And a lot of people would look at that and be like, oh, my God, I can't believe you guys sat there and had these deep conversations. But you know what?
Yeah.
What's wrong with it? Because we need more attention on this. Like there is nothing wrong with sitting there and trying to figure out like, okay, how do I get introspective? How do I look at myself? How do I become a better version of myself so that I can help my family and my business? And that's where a lot of struggles happen, is that I think we get that, again, this American culture, the American dream, the macho-ness of it all gets in the way of us being able to reach our full potential, because you're led to believe that isn't how it's done. But I don't see how it works without coming to this step where you're able to actually look at yourself and figure out going in the mirror, waking up, going to the mirror, staring at the person that's staring back at you, and picking out flaws and actually admitting that they exist. You know, whether you're lazy, you're fat, you're an alcoholic, you have a drug addiction, you can't, your leadership style sucks. Like, pick something out. And look, these are things that, like, I'm being honest right now. Like, this is where I was at. Like, these are things that I had to look at myself in the mirror and really get ugly and just be like, no, man, like, you can't cover it up anymore. These are actual issues. And then, okay, how do I now attack these and figure them out? Because I could have continued to wake up and tell, oh yeah, hey, you look pretty good. You're gonna go. You're gonna get a bunch of exercise by installing a floor for the day. You're gonna go and have a high level business conversation with someone to record the podcast. You're gonna make all this money so the wife and kids get whatever they want. And yet none of that mattered because I would come home and drink a 12-pack. So all the exercise I did was out the window. Yeah. The high level business conversation is me just having a conversation. It's fun, but it's not anything that special. And meanwhile, my kids and wife felt ignored because I didn't spend any time with them because it was all spent installing a floor and then having a high level business discussion. And then I went to bed. Yeah. So I accomplished nothing. So getting real and actually looking at what you say your life is and what your life really is, it hurts. But being honest like that, and look, guys, I get it. Oh, we have to be macho. No, you can have feelings. And I think actually having feelings goes way, way further than most of us realize. There's one of the best selling posters, like historically, is a picture of this like really handsome dude holding a baby, and he's got his shirt off, and like he's a like muscular dude, probably late 20s, early 30s, just holding this infant baby, and women eat it up. But it's not because he's muscular and good looking. It's because he's kind, and there's tenderness, and there's like this protection that he's offering the baby in the picture. Like all of these other things that the qualities are what the women are attracted to, but our minds have been warped as men to be like, oh, let's look at all the macho things about it. None of them matter. That's not what they're like looking at. And so for us to sit here and think that we can't express feelings is just absolutely absurd. And to be honest, and look, I kind of have to plug myself more, and this is something that I need to learn to do. The biggest advantage of the business therapy, like this is why I started calling them business therapy, is the mastermind groups. The biggest thing has been that people coming and getting a chance to express their bullshit every other week has changed their lives. Because you really get to come in, you get to vent to people that understand, you get down and get to know these people, and we're all in the trust tree, and none, it doesn't come out otherwise. And you get to expose yourself on a different level. And when you can come and be surrounded by people where you can be your real self and you don't have to put on the costume anymore, it is absolutely game changing.
Having sat in on one of those mastermind calls with you and the few guys that were on that call, everything that you just said, I think is 100% accurate in the value of those. But the word that is missing is accountability. And I think that's probably what makes the mastermind groups really work and become effective. Is you're creating this group that stays together through the mastermind growth process. And everybody's got to share, everybody's got to be open, but at the same time, they're all peers, right? So when their bullshit detector goes off, I know they're calling the other guy on the bullshit. It's like, oh yeah, okay, you're probably right. I probably fibbed that a little bit. It's more like this, right? And so just being able to be raw and honest, whatever the venue is, if you just allow yourself to be the truest version of yourself as often as you possibly can, keep those walls down. Like, to me, that's where the meaningful dialogue comes in. That's where you really actually move the needle. Otherwise, you're playing freaking checkers, but all you're both doing is you're just moving checkers forward and backward, forward and backward, forward and back, right? Like nobody's crossing the midline. It's like, yeah, we're just going to sit here and volley, and then maybe somebody's going to lower their guard and we're going to jump over the net. Or it just, if you don't have that connection and you're not willing to let yourself go there, and, you know, because the majority of your listeners are indeed flooring installers or contractors, or, you know, that you kept using the word macho, which I think is an appropriate adjective for the subject matter. Like, man, macho that's a vision we all have in our own head, right? So when somebody is so focused on not wanting to present weakness in any way, shape, or form, that's them representing what I believe is the false narrative of macho, right? Like macho is I'm in complete control and I've got this and I've got that and I'm the big tough guy and all of that. Well, yeah, I know from personal experience that sometimes those are the weakest, right? So the ability to be open and true with yourself has to happen first before it'll go anywhere else. And, you know, look, my journey, I would be remiss not to make it a point to share this. You know, my wife, Shannon, and I it's both of our second marriages, but we've been together, just celebrated our 22nd anniversary, 21st anniversary of our first date. February will be our 18th anniversary, being married. And from the time that we met, like I was this gruff, macho guy over here, and she was kind of a little bit of a wild child, but like there was nothing she was afraid to talk about. And over the years, we've kind of met each other in the middle. And really the last couple of years in the relationship that her and I have, she's given me the support and the confidence to be my rawest and truest self. She has been my biggest cheerleader in the 20 plus years that her and I have been together, and always taken the backseat to my career. I mean, all of our moves were dictated by my career. And, you know, I put it out on social media when I made the decision in October, beginning of October, to come on to Reach and walk away from a six-figure salary with no guarantee of a replacement for any time frame, and no significant savings account. Like most people would look at our financial situation and be like, you are an effing idiot for pulling the plug when you did. But you know what? There will never be a better time. If not now, when? Like if you're not willing to commit to banking on yourself now, then when? But for me, I've gotten over the need to be the guy with the biggest title in the room, or the guy with the biggest paycheck in the room, or the self-belief that I was anyways. And instead, I'm so excited about being in a position in life and in a position professionally where I can take what Shannon has done for me the last 20 plus years of our relationship, and now it's my turn to be her biggest cheerleader. I want to be the guy behind the scenes that creates the efficiencies in her business that allows her to go live her best career and her best life, because she's got so much to give to so many people. Like, it's time for her to have the stage. And some of my friends are like, wow, are you really going to be okay with that, taking the back seat? And I'm like, brother, I am dying to jump into the back seat. Like, that is such an exciting freaking place for me to be right now.
It's funny. I gotta interrupt us, and then we'll hop in on this. But yeah, I have some thoughts for sure. So quick little word here from Johns Manville: 0 entry, curbless, ADA compliant. All these words describe a shower pan style that is both luxurious and accessible for every person. GoBoard Point Drain was designed with this in mind. The low-profile features and adjustable riser perfectly enable a 0 entry installation. Whether you install mud pans or use GoBoard wedges, the integrated membrane keeps water securely flowing in the right direction, down the drain. Visit www.jm.com/GoBoard to discover the possibilities. All right, Kevin. So you're talking about taking a back seat, and I don't even know that you are. Like, you can still have this front seat, but you've learned to share it and to put other people up there with you and let them show off their talents. And it's, again, we have very similar things. Like, my wife has been by my side for almost 20 years at this point, but she wasn't. Like, it's just recently that I've learned like what at my side means.
Yeah.
She was in the back seat, and it was like, no, you stay there, move out of my way. I'm just going to go do all this stuff. And she's put up with it. And there's been a lot of not so great things I've done. And we were having a conversation the other day, and she's like, aren't you glad I waited? Because like, I knew what was there. And I was like, I don't know. I wouldn't have. I don't know what you were doing, but like, I would have left me. But it was like, she knew there was something there to turn. And right, she was like, she sat there and kept polishing the turd, and eventually it was shiny. But I think you've found a position to where you can, yes, you can put her first and put her out there, but you're able to do it in a way that you both accentuate each other's like best sides. And so it's not even necessarily taking a back seat. Again, like, you guys are both there and able to present everything together as this is a unified front, and we're going to combine our skills and figure out what really works. And again, this, the bigger business conversation here is, what are you doing in your life? Who are you having these conversations with? Some of these young guys aren't married yet, but can you have these discussions with your employees? I'm big on the business basics right now, and like having some core values and having a mission and a vision statement, and making sure that your employees know them like actively, like they have them memorized and can recite them so that they know what you're trying to accomplish. That might take you getting a little vulnerable with them, because you might have to admit, like, hey man, the company's kind of struggling right now. Like, if you know somebody that could use work, like, I could really use you to bring it in instead of doing it on the side. Like, help me help you continue to work. Or, they've got to know what you're trying to build. Are you trying to help the community? Are you, if you're just trying to put money in your own pocket, no one's going to want to support that. And so being open and honest with people is wow, Kyle, that's so insightful, right? Like, who didn't know that? And yet here we are all telling these stories that, I did it on my own. I don't need any help. I don't need this. And yet here Kevin and I are having this conversation about how game changing it is to actually do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what's interesting too, and a little sidebar or segue, although I do want to pause. You just use the word vulnerable. And as somebody in a leadership position, being vulnerable with employees and all of that, I applaud that statement, because quite frankly, being transparent and being vulnerable, number one, it allows you to connect with your employees on a level that they never would have expected. You now become a real human as a leader to them, not just somebody in charge of their paycheck. And if you can be vulnerable and transparent, and at the same time listen for the signs that they are willing to do the same, and then embrace those conversations and get to know your people on a level that maybe you don't think is professional, but it can be professional, right? Like, so don't be fearful of embracing the opportunity to connect with your people, your teams on that level, because I think that would be a massive mistake not to. But I have been fortunate enough to lead a number of teams in my 30 years. And while I am confident there are more than a few detractors to my leadership style over the decades, I would still confidently say that I think I have connected with more people on the teams that I've had and been more invested in their future development and their future career aspirations than I haven't been. And that's something that makes me feel good inside when I put my head on the pillow at night. Like, I know that I've positively impacted other people's lives in that way. But so shifting gears to the today, And, when we start talking about passion and freedom equals happiness, happiness equals freedom, I've been with the company for 6 weeks now and trying to kind of figure out where I can be and what I can do to both most benefit the company. But at the same time, also acknowledging that I needed to find at Reach Social some passion projects of my own,
Mm-hmm.
whether that's, a customer segment that we're not currently in because the majority of Reach Social's customer base today is construction and or flooring based. I just landed my first client, got a signed contract back this week, having been with the company for 6 weeks. But guess who it is? It is a track day organization that hosts and sponsors 55 events a year to rent and or bring your race cars to the most iconic racetracks in America and drive for the weekend, which has been a hobby of mine to do as a participant for the
Mm-hmm.
last 15 years. Well, now all of a sudden we're taking over their social media Jan 1, and all of a sudden I'm thinking to myself, I am more excited about getting up each day focused on how to invest into making that business as successful as I possibly can. I'm not going to get rich doing it. It's
Mm-hmm.
just another customer when it comes to the revenue for the business, but it fills my soul. And that ultimately is what we're all chasing, right? Is how do you find yourself in that position where you wake up in the morning and go, holy shit, I can't imagine doing anything else today.
That there, right there, right. So how many times have you don't hang out in the social forums on like Facebook as much as I do, but there are a lot of, and we've talked about this on the show before, there are a lot of salty contractors out there that, a young kid will come on to one of the groups and start asking about like, how do I get further along? How do I open my own business? And these crusty old men just come along. They're like, don't do it. It sucks. I hate my life. God, dude, if you're that miserable, why are you still doing it? I am sorry, but I don't care how little control you think you have. No one has a gun to your head every morning telling you
Yep.
to go install floors again. Go become a plumber. Go sell blinds. Go work at
To
McDonald's.
do
Dude, I don't care
anything.
what you do, man. Go make a decision to like go do. I can't. My life doesn't afford me that. Really? Because if you're a contractor, you're probably not an employee. There's a good chance that you're not an employee, which means you've already taken your entire livelihood into your own hands. And you're telling me you don't have any control? You have all the control in the world because you already put everything on your own back, man. Just make the decision to go do something else. That happiness key is absolutely it. I love this industry. It has changed my life. Do I want to install floors anymore? Not really. I'll be honest. I really
Yeah.
love doing this, being able to connect with people, have conversations, help them get insights into their own business, being able to look at the 30,000-foot view of businesses. I love doing what I'm doing now. This is really, really exciting. A couple of years ago, learning how to install a floor and installing it was the most awesome thing. In a couple more years, I might not like that. At one point, I liked making video production and making TV shows, and that was the greatest thing since sliced bread to me. It changes every like 5 years. I kind of want to reinvent myself, like 5 to 7. But you know, it's I don't know that that's wrong. Like I'm gonna go find a way to take my skill sets, apply them in a way that makes me happy, so that I want to go generate some kind of an income. And I've now learned that I can do that fairly well. Like I can just kind of find a way to generate income. But how do I put the least amount of effort forward possible to get the biggest return so that I can go invest my time into my kids and my wife?
Yeah.
And that's been the like big like switch for me, or flip, is okay, I say it's about them, but it wasn't actually about them. It was about me. Now I'm trying
Yeah.
to actually make it about them and be like, okay, I want to give them as much time as possible, but I still have to be able to, like, I want to provide at a level that I determine. So now how do I find a way to capitalize and market my skill sets as profitably as possible in the least amount of time? And that's a trick to like be able to figure that out. But anybody can do that. Like you don't Stop watching your 30-minute show. Just get off of TikTok and the death scroll.
But
Go.
and the one caveat to that, or the one clarification that I would make there, is the word provide. What is it that you need to provide to your family? Is it the money? No. And that's where I was mistaken. And that was kind of I mean, look, at the end of the day, we all need to keep a roof over our head and make sure there's food on the table for our families. I'm not trying to be coy about any of that. But what do you think? And I think you've already touched on it, that your wife has acknowledged with you. Providing is so much more than a W-2. Yeah. It is so much more than a bank balance. Your presence, your involvement in their daily lives, your ability to commit to them emotionally and financially being second intentionally, because at the end of the day, you're the parent of two beautiful children. You've got an amazing wife. I've been fortunate enough to meet them all. At the end of the day, that is what you should be most proud of, is the family that you have created and chosen to be your core. Everything else should be about how can I enhance that experience? Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how much money you've got in the bank. When you're dead, you're freaking dead, right? Like yes. That money's left for somebody else to go have an experience with. And you certainly want to provide well for your children so that they have the opportunity to get a better start maybe than you did when you were in their age, at their age as teenagers and whatnot. But at the end of the day, I want to be able to provide for my family emotionally before financially. And that is the inverse or reverse of how I've lived the last 30 years of my life.
Yes.
Because the last 30 years I was living based on society's checklist. And only in the last 24 months have I decided that society's checklist is bullshit. It really is. Because nobody else in society is living inside the four walls that occupy this house.
Yep.
So I've got to be uber connected with my wife, and I've got to have an amazing relationship with my child. Like, those are the most important things in the world to me. Money, I've bought all the shit. I've given all the shit away. I've had some great experiences. I've had plenty. I've had none. I've had plenty again. I've had none again. Like, none of that matters. Nobody gives a shit about that report card. Like, if you, God forbid, something happened to you tomorrow, like, what is your family going to miss the most? And I guarantee you it's not your paycheck.
Yeah. It's funny what happens when you step back and you actually do that exercise. There's two things that I want to do here. So one, I've become really interested in like the European way of living lately. And just like historically, they'll still live in small homes and multi-generationally, but it's a way cheaper way to live, and there's more support. The second part of it is that in Western culture, when I come up to you and I say, "Hey, Kevin, nice to meet you," who are you or what do you do, right? Well, if I ask you who you are, you'll immediately tell me I'm the CEO of Reach Social. We identify with titles of where we're at in life. In a lot of developing countries, you can go up to people and ask them who they are, and they will immediately tell you they are the son or the daughter of blah, blah, blah. Huh. And that's how we used to be. But that's something amazing. Changed in Western culture to where we identify as the thing we do instead of who we are. And so we don't have that. The value of family doesn't exist as strongly in Western culture as it used to. And that's why I'm attracted to this European way of lifestyle and living multi-generationally. What does that look like? One, it's not only cheaper because you have more people providing to like make this whole thing go round, but when you start to look at it, okay, so I currently have, my wife's family is all in Wisconsin. They're 1,800 miles away. I have some family here in Phoenix, but everyone's like 20 or 30 minutes away. So if I need something, it's a hassle to make it happen. Whereas if we all lived multi-generationally, like if Mike, in a couple of years, my son's 14 now. So let's say, by 20, he has a kid. he can stay at home and live with us. Well, he's got to go to work. Mom's still not, his mom doesn't work, and maybe his wife wants to work. Well, there's somebody that's there that's available to take care of this child without it being an inconvenience to pay for, babysitting or daycare, whatever you got to do, because that costs an arm and a leg. Like it makes the whole system go a lot smoother, but then it's also, you're more connected with the people that actually matter to you.
Yeah.
And that's what can you grow when, again, this was the big thing, was like, what can we make together? Like, that's what you're doing with Shannon now. For years it was, what can Kevin do on his own? And Shannon gets to do her thing, but I'm going to go do all of this. And then finally you were like, oh, wait, hold on. The best opportunity has been in front of me the whole time, and I didn't even realize it. And so now what can we do together? And for the grander scheme of like this business conversation of being on the show, and you're like, why are we all touchy feely today? Who is it? Like, maybe you don't have the wife and kids yet, right? Maybe it is you and you're in your early 20s and you're just trying to build this construction business. Who can you go invest in, right? Can you invest in your employees? Can you go find a part of the community to help build? Like, where can you invest your time and disconnect from what is culturally normal and go put a different spin on it? And not only will it help you, it'll help your business, but you'll get other people. Anything that's countercultural gets attention. So if you want to go market your business and it from a truly pure place, like, that's the thing. If you go into this specifically for like wanting to get marketing for your business out of it, everyone's going to see right through you. But if you truly want to go and be countercultural and you do it, you are going to get so much more attention than you ever wanted. And it'll probably be good.
Yep. Yeah, there is one other thing that I wanted to share with you today, and I don't know how we are on time, so I'll be quick about it. But one of the things that I think is a roadblock, especially for those young 20-somethings that don't yet have the family and the stability and all of that, and again, shifting gears just a little bit here, is the use of the term busy. How many times do you talk to somebody and they're like, oh my God, I want to do this, 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 and this, and this, but I'm so busy. I'm so busy. There is an article, and I just went and Googled it because I wanted to make sure that it was still posted. I found this in 2013. It was written in 2012. It's a New York Times opinion piece, and it's called The Busy Trap. And anybody that is challenged with finding the time to invest in themselves, I would strongly recommend you just Google it, look at the article. It's a 5-minute read, 10-minute read, but it opened my eyes, and I shared it with my team. At the time, I had 50 people working in my division at Interior Specialists here in Denver, and I had a group of managers that, oh my God, we were so busy. Oh my God, we're so slammed. We don't have time for that. Read that article, and it will give you a perspective on what actually busy means. And busy, I think, growing up as we have, I think busy has been a badge of honor for us.
Yes.
Like it's like putting a uniform number on your shirt kind of thing. Like, it defines you and identifies you as somebody that puts in all the extra effort. Yeah, it just means that you might not be the most efficient at what you're doing, right? Nobody should have to be that busy doing those types of things. So if the word busy or the things that you associate with busy are the speed bumps keeping you from getting introspective, just reevaluate that perspective, because we all determine what makes us busy.
Hustle culture is not a good thing. It is absolutely disgusting. This, like, you got to always be busy. And I was that guy. I was doing the installations all day, and I was doing the podcast at night, and I was that guy. And everyone was like, oh my gosh, you're so busy. You're so, like, it's awesome. I can't believe it killed me.
Yeah.
I pride myself on how lazy I can be these days. Like, how little can I do and still
Yeah,
pay
and
my bills so that I can go hang out? Like, I'm so excited about, like, I can wake up and I can kind of record a podcast, and I'm going to go do a little coaching with somebody today, and then I get to go watch my daughter swim. Like, perfect. And I had a lazy morning. Like, how little can I do and make my life still function is my new goal. And I think it's the greatest goal I've had as of yet.
Yeah, it is so anti everything that we have thought and done. And yeah, look, Shannon and I use a term sometimes between the two of us that I think probably is relevant here. And that term is somewhere in the middle. Like,
Yes.
when you identify something so completely effed up over here, like our natural order of response is that if we're all the way over here, we've got to go all the way over here. But really, where the dial needs to be is somewhere in the middle. Like, yeah, you're way to one direction, but way to the other direction is just going to have the same result. Maybe it'll feel different, but it's still jacked up.
Yeah.
So you don't want to be as lazy as you can possibly be, even though those are the words that you use. But because I'm in the same boat that you are, I completely understand what you mean. But for those that are listening, maybe it's not, like,
Okay.
yeah,
Yes.
don't F off completely, but like find the balance, right? Because that at the end of the day is everything that we're talking about today, is finding your balance. Your balance is not the balance of your friends. It's not the balance of your neighbors or your uncles or your parents. It's what is the balance that makes you feel the best that you can possibly be. Because the reality of it is, if my first car when I was 16 years old, ironically, was from the same year that I was born, a 1971 Ford Maverick. Okay. That car was born in 1971, but if I got in that car today and drove it, it would literally be the biggest pile of shit I've ever sat in. But that's what it was 52 years ago when it was made. So why would you be stuck in the 70s and only driving that car when you could go get a car that has been updated along with the times, and maybe there's some upgrades? And I'm speaking about ourselves in the term of being these vehicles, right? We should always be fine tuning. We should always be looking for ways to upgrade who we are and what resonates the most with us. So that's that's probably my, completely lost my not train of thought, my vocabulary.
No, I think those are great closing thoughts, right? And you're right. It's not about, like, I want to be as lazy as possible. Yes, it's about finding balance of how do I find a way to make this all work in the most efficient way possible so that everybody's getting what they want. I need something that's rewarding for me, but I need to make it rewarding for my wife and kids as well. And it's been, you had to get really serious and uncomfortable, and it hurt to go and look at myself and admit a bunch of flaws and then say, all right, how do I actually fix these? How do I become not only a better person, a better business owner, a better husband, a better father, and start picking myself apart and saying, all of this stuff sucks. Let's go change it now. It's not fun. And you went through the same experience. You had to sit there and, like, to invest yourself for almost 30 years into a career to build yourself up to be this you were a guy that could essentially put in a resume and you'd probably end up at the top of the pile rather quickly for the positions you were applying at. Take that, throw it away, and say, all right, that was a thing, but that's not getting the results that I want anymore. So let's, you spent almost 30 years building it, and then you just throw it out the window. Like, it seems very, very counterproductive, counterintuitive, but you have to die to yourself. I guess the way I could sum it up is that, so, my daughter has Down syndrome. I'm pretty sure I mentioned on the show. So for anybody that doesn't know, I have my daughter is the most amazing little girl. I absolutely know she has Down syndrome. But in my head, before she was born, we had some warning signs. But you don't want to believe those, because I always wanted a little girl. I had her name picked out when I was like 14 years old. So 12 years later, like, there she was. I had built up what this story looked like in my head for so many years that I actually mourned the loss of my daughter, and she was in my hands. Like, she's in my arms, and I, like, you have to, it was really weird. And it was a nurse that explained it to me. She was like, no, you actually, like, you're going to mourn the loss of, like, it's not you're mourning that she's right here and, like, the physical person, but what I had built up, that vision of it. Yes. Like, I had to mourn that child and then accept, like, okay, I have this one and we're going to make some awesome times. But I think that's what you and I have gone through, and probably many others need to, is like, we've built up this one story and narrative, but it was the wrong one. And now we have to throw it away. And it's like, how do you, as a man in this culture, how do you sit there and throw titles and money and status and all that stuff away and not think you're losing? Like, it doesn't make sense. But I can tell you from what I've experienced, from what Kevin's experienced, and what he's telling, you're going to end up in a much better place.
Yeah. Yeah, right. 100%. The only thing that I would add to that, and I don't know that I'm really even adding to it, is to just pick that first person to open up to. Whoever that is in your life that you've not, maybe you think you've had deep conversations, but probably not this deep. And if you don't have the wife who's your best friend, like I think Kyle and I are both fortunate enough to have in our lives, there's somebody out there. There is a friend. There's somebody in your network that guaranteed is in the same exact place you are. They just don't know how to talk about it. So be the person that starts the conversation. Be the person that gets a little bit vulnerable, makes themselves a little bit uncomfortable. But boy, oh boy, just building on what you just said there, Kyle, like I'm when I get out of bed in the morning, I don't feel like I have a heavy chest anymore because I'm not worried about what anybody else thinks. I'm only worried about what my wife thinks and the experiences that my wife and my child and her future family are all going to have together. That is what is going to define my happiness for the rest of my life, however long I'm fortunate enough to be here.
And that's the beauty of it, folks.
Yep.
That's it. We're gonna leave it there. So look, if you want someone to reach out to, I'm sure Kevin would be happy to talk. I'm happy to talk. Okay.
I am happy to talk.
So you can easily reach out. If you want to reach Kevin, I'll get you connected with him. If you want to reach out to me, you can find me on Facebook. It's flooracademypodcast@gmail.com. You can go to book.flooracademypod.com/call or /Zoom, and you can schedule a meeting with me. Like, I'm happy to do it. It is, I understand how important it is to just have someone to talk to, and that, will listen and be open and receptive and not judge you. And so I am happy to do that for anybody that wants to reach out. Like, no strings attached on anything. Let's just shoot the shit. That's what needs to happen, and more people need to do it. So, what do we got here? I want to thank everybody for listening. We, go to the website, check out the store, flooracademypod.com, pick up a t-shirt, pick up a hoodie, help support the show. The shows are coming up. It's December. We're almost to January. We got Tice. Go get a fanny pack so you can put all your cool swag in it, so you can be one of the cool kids with a Floor Academy fanny pack, because those are in. Like, that's a thing. They're super popular these days, guys. I promise. No lie. Like, you're going to be the coolest kid at Surfaces if you have a fanny pack. But no, there's lots of cool swag over there. Again, you can help support the show. Patreon.com/Floor Academy. And what do we got? We got a couple of words from our sponsors. So what do we got? Tice says, listeners, it's nearing show season again, and I want to remind you that the International Surface event is returning to Las Vegas January 24th through the 26th. You're going to want to mark your calendars, not just so you can go to my talk on Tuesday morning, but on the Monday prior, so January 23rd, we're going to have it's now an annual women's conference thing. So you could definitely find Shannon there. She is going to be the leader of it. I can't think of the term. She's the MC. She's the head honcho. She's going to be the one calling the shots on stage and introducing everybody this year. And she probably has a talk. And I'm pretty sure she has I always forget what they call them, but she's got a talk one of the mornings as well, if not one, at least another. And you'll probably be able to find her on the stage somewhere around there as well. And if it goes the way she wants it to, she may be dragging Kevin into at least one of them and putting him on a stage and making him super uncomfortable, which will be absolutely thrilling to watch. So, lots of reasons to go to Surfaces.
That just made me feel uncomfortable, you saying that. So thank you for sharing that, Kyle.
No problem. I'm going to have to get her on the phone and we'll make that happen. But continuing the ad spot here, there's going to be tons of stuff to happen over there. It's going to be great. So registration is open and you can enter my name, KYLE, and get a free exhibition pass to the show. So whether you're an installer, retailer, distributor, or serve in another capacity within our industry, attending TICE is a solid resource to expand your knowledge and networking base. You can also learn about the newest and industry-leading products coming to market. Stay up to date with the International Surfaces event page on Facebook or online at intlsurfaceevent.com. And lastly, but not least, you know the grind, the dust, the rain, the cold. We do too. We're IQ Power Tools, born from the sweat and grit of two masons who knew there had to be a better way. We're not just making the tools, we're elevating the whole damn game. From our hands to yours, our story is your story. So let's cut the dust, not the ambition. Can't wait to meet you where it all happens, the job site. For more information on IQ Power Tools and their products, check out the link in the show notes. And if you're not a tile person, you still need to go check out IQ, their vacuum. I have it. It's super awesome. I didn't even get it. I bought it with my own money. I love the damn thing. I can do dustless tile removal with it. I can hook it up to my grinder and it's not spitting dust everywhere. And it's the most reasonably priced vacuum on the market that hits OSHA standards, so that you're not putting dust out everywhere before getting into the really big, super duper industrial ones. It does it. So go check out the link in the show notes. Go check out their stuff. Improve your equipment. It's super reasonable and it's going to make you more money. And then if you are a tile person and you want a saw that, isn't getting water all over everything, they've got really cool dustless saws to dry cut everything. So go check them out. And I don't know. So thank you again, Kevin, for joining us. We will catch you all. You're welcome. We'll catch you all next week.